A double mechanical and wave so big they swallowed up the entirety of the athletes. This is the first race of the 2026 T100 season. We are in Australia today. The Gold Coast holds the season opener, and unfortunately the top 3 of last year's edition is not here due to injury and other season plans, so there's a chance in the first race for some newbies, some new characters to score a really good result, and one of them is Jessica Fullagar, promising short distance talent. Daniela Di Francesco returns to triathlon after a cycling stint. Ellie Salthouse, the local hero, and the biggest favorite of them all, the 2024 champion Taylor Knibb, are some of the favorites here today. And as we look at the water, even before the race, these conditions are very tough. The swim is 2 laps with this little diamond shape, no Aussie exit as usual, and there's a tide from the right to the left. And this is very important because Taylor makes a bit of a mistake when she's already lining up for this race. I'll pause it right here and I'll see the red swim cap of Taylor Swift. She is already on the far right hand side, and unfortunately for her, all the other swimmers that play a role in this race today in the first swim group are lining up much further to the left, and that wrong position might have cost her, as we will see later on. But for now though, let's look at the women, let's look at the actual start. As always, very fast into the water like it's short distance, and just look at how far they are running before they even touch water. One athlete at the back trips even and falls down, but nothing too crazy, but just how far they are running, and already we see the waves are very, very big. And I want you to pay attention to the woman in the pink cap here, Sara Perez-Sala, in front of you. She is diving under these big waves. We will see this again. She's sighting again, and then she sees the wave coming and she's going under the wave, which is much more efficient than going over the top. But we see from shore, this is incredible. These waves are so big. In the first few minutes I really thought, okay, they cannot go through with this swim, they need to cancel this, this is so dangerous. But it would calm down eventually, and then we have the 7-woman group going into the front of the race after like 5 minutes of the race. And who's not there? Taylor Knibb. She is just behind on the bottom right of your screen, and just a few minutes later we see just how close she comes. On the left hand side in the red cap, that's Taylor Knibb, but she doesn't come onto the legs of them. And so after 15 minutes of swimming, the front group, including the likes of Sara Perez-Sala and Jess Fullagar, it's still pulling away from her, and Taylor Knibb is desperately trying to hang on, but she just cannot get to the front group. And I think a better position might have helped her to get to that front group and stay with that as well, which then could have influenced her race and made it much easier, of course. But she doesn't get on, and so after the first lap going into the second lap, we suddenly see this. After this turning buoy, a few athletes going to the right, some others going to the left, and I immediately knew, okay, somebody has made a wrong turn here. And we see athletes correcting their way apart from one. And that one athlete that is going the wrong way is Sara Perez-Sala. We see here where she's aiming instead of where she should be aiming. And so she needs to get held up by that medical boat here. And they are telling her, you're in the wrong way. And you see already just how far she is behind everybody else. She was in the front group. She was leading the front group, but not anymore. And this chaos led to the front group, of course, splitting up. And we see over this sandbank here, this is a big difference in skill between athletes that can swim in the sea and athletes that can only swim in the pool. You see how they are waiting for this wave and they are riding the wave because it's just so much more efficient before it then goes into a bit of deeper water again. And not every athlete can do this. Not every athlete is aware that this tactic can be used today. And therefore, the best swimmers are obviously going out at the front. Jess Fullagar leads us out. And a bit of a surprise to me, Imogen Simmons in second. And third, we have Di Francesco and Rebecca Clark behind her. And as Jess Fullagar goes onto the bike, we see Perez-Sala and then also Taylor Knibb only just going into transition. So Fullagar with a smart swim, with obviously also a very strong swim, made up a lot of time, and so she has a big gap going onto the bike. Perez-Sala is changing to her helmet and to her bike now, as Taylor Knibb does the same, and eventually they all do get out, but with some small and not so small gaps. And we look at the bike course. It's an 8-lap course, so Counting is important, but we have a lap counter here. And it's not a very technical course. It's a flat course, some corners in there, not too many. And it's a very beautiful and very fast one. And Jess Fullagar is obviously the first one on the road, and she has a gap on this group behind with DiFrancesco, with Simmons and some other athletes in there. But Imogen Simmons isn't quite happy with the motorbike, and she gestures to them as well, because the moto for some reason just is now within that group. So it's heavily interfering with the bike race, and that's so unfortunate, because just a few minutes later we see Imo again getting held up by this technical official that just parks it at the apex. So motorbikes still influencing races in 2026. Very unfortunate, but that's just the case. Jess Fullagar, meanwhile, going into the second lap, she misses the corner and goes straight on, doesn't crash, but she loses some valuable seconds to this woman right here, Taylor Knibb. She overtook the second chase group, is now in P2 and is only 1 minute 1 second behind going into the second lap. At the third lap though, we suddenly see Clark at the bike mechanics, and her cockpit just dropped down, and at the same time we have another athlete that has a puncture as well. So the bike mechanic certainly under stress, just like this woman right here, Taylor Knibb, really working hard. The gap is down to 50 seconds with the other women behind, losing time to the front too. And after 4 laps, Taylor has got the gap down to just 36 seconds. And Taylor is obviously the stronger one of the two, but there is another reason why Taylor might be faster than Fullagar. And that's because Jess is actually riding the bike of Lucy Byram, who couldn't start because of injury, and she isn't as comfortable and maybe not as technically smart as Taylor Knibb is. So as they go into this corner, the angle is not the same, but we can clearly see just how much further Taylor is towards the apex, and that costs a couple of seconds every corner for Fullagar. DiFrancesco then gives us our daily bottle drop on a triathlon bike leg, and she is in this group together with a few other athletes. One of them is Van der Kay, who is now overtaking her into second place, and because of the 20-meter rule, DiFrancesco now needs to make the 20-meter gap again, but behind, Bogen is pushing past Van Kofferden, and so Zara Perez-Sala is leading, and we suddenly have a situation where Bogen comes from behind, and from the front, DiFrancesco needs to make a gap, and so they go into this corner with barely any gaps between them. And this means that because they make the gaps, all of a sudden Van Kofferden is in the red light of DiFrancesco, and because DiFrancesco isn't right here, she can't overtake in this corner combination, and DiFrancesco is holding her up, which is quite annoying for Van Kofferden, of course, but that's just the way it is. A bit more situational awareness would have been nice. But meanwhile, Taylor Knibb in front, lap 5 out of 8 done. She is overtaking Fullagar for the first place, never to be seen again on this bike leg, because she is really working hard. We see the effort on her face, and that effort might be the reason for this little scare right here. We go into this 180-degree turn, and she is just having a little moment on the brakes, going really careful through this corner now. So the effort is really catching up to Taylor Knibb. Bogen has then gone to the front of that group, and she's quite fast. Meanwhile, the motorbike crossing the center line with an athlete coming from the right. Very dangerous move by the motorbike again, and then also needs to let through Van der Kay. So moto's really interfering in many triathlon races these days, unfortunately. Taylor Knibb then goes past some lapped athletes, just for these lapped athletes to unlap themselves a couple of minutes later. Taylor visibly annoyed, and rightly so. That can't happen, and she goes into the final lap with 50 seconds as a gap. She comes across some wildlife, 1 minute gap, and as she goes into transition, she has a gap of 1 minute 17 on Jess Fullagar in second, and somebody we haven't seen all the bike leg, Imogen Simmons in third place. Bogen and Zara Perez-Sala as well as Van der Kay coming in the chase group behind. Many minutes later, 5 minutes later, so they are out of the race before it goes onto the run. And the run course also flat course, 6 laps, 3 kilometers, and then a bit of a drag to the finish line. And Taylor Knibb going out very hard, but the athlete going out even harder was Jess Fullagar, who after the first lap brought the gap down from 1:17 to 50 seconds. And we thought we might have a race for first place, as behind Bogen and Van der Kay get rid of Zara Perez-Salah. But unfortunately, over the next lap, the gap stagnated 50 seconds still after 3 laps, with them coming alongside each other and Knibb running strong. And I personally thought, okay, there might still be a chance, but then I saw this graphic right here, Fullagar running 3:30, and I knew this wouldn't be sustainable. And Taylor Knibb, if she could continue her pace, she would most likely win the race. After half the run, she still had a 48-second gap, so not much changed. Imogen Simmons in third, and Taylor Knibb just absolutely cruised this run down to the end. After 6 laps, she had a minute again, and that means she is the winner of the T100 Gold Coast, the first race of 2026 with an incredibly relaxed run, I think. Maybe the bike was a bit harder for her than the run. With Fullagar, absolutely amazing performance. In second place, she's got a bit of an Anne Haug style, and this might be a big year for her because she has a really huge potential, as she thanks Lucy Byram for her bike, to actually place quite high in the overall standings this year. Imogen Simmons rounds out the podium. Great performance after a terrible 2025, and this is how the other athletes came in. Van der Kay 5th in front of Bogen, both great results for them. Perez-Salah 6th, Salthouse a bit disappointed in 7th, Lotte Wilms 8th, Van Kofort in 9th, and Alanis Siffert running out the top 10. Incredibly good race and some breakout performances today, especially Fullagar. Keep an eye out for her over the coming races. The next race is the T100 Singapore, the men's edition, and I hope to see you then. Stay tuned for some pretty big updates. I have a feeling that over the next couple of weeks, maybe the next days, we will have some huge PTO announcements. So if you don't want to miss them, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you very soon. Bye bye.